Good evening. I'm Gracelyn Guyol, and welcome to Inspiring Nonprofits. This week, I want to discuss Work&Learn, a local nonprofit that helps people find jobs. And with me is the co-founder and trustee of Work&Learn, Dyer. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, Gracelyn.
Dan is a graduate of Yale and Harvard Business School. He sold computers for IBM, started a computer time-sharing company and took it public, volunteered in global micro-enterprise development, and co-founded Jobs Partnerships, Greater Washington, D.C., as well as Work&Learn. So Dan, what exactly is Work&Learn?
Well, Work&Learn, Gracelyn, as an organization, is a Bible-based, multi-denominational, 100% volunteer-based, 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit. What Work&Learn actually does is to mentor and train unemployed or underemployed men and women how to become stronger spiritually, how to choose a career, how to get a job, and how to be successful in the job.
Well, that's pretty broad, and yet it is all connected to life. I mean, this is wonderful, what you're offering. Tell us how you do all of that.
Well, what we do is we run a course that meets on Tuesday nights for 13 weeks. And the course covers both biblical principles, the course is called Keys and Steps to Personal and Professional Success.
Okay.
So the keys are biblical principles. The steps are career skills, which people need multiple times throughout a lifetime. We've been running for 13 weeks. The course takes 3 months, and so we run it twice a year. We've been doing this for 7 years,
wow.
And it's run in 5 different churches in New London, Connecticut, and in Groton, and in Norwich.
Okay.
It's been 10 times at Huntington Street Baptist Church in New London, twice at First Hispanic on Redden Avenue, twice in the First Baptist. Those 2 churches have since merged and become Church of the City. And in Groton, it's been twice at Pleasant Valley Community Prayer and Praise, and once in Norwich at Cornerstone International Church.
I think we have those churches, photos of those churches that we can put up onto the screen right now. Maybe we have those churches. All right, we'll keep going. And there they are. Okay, which one's this?
Well, while we're seeing that, I wanted to mention, Gracelyn, that since our expenses are minimal, and because churches provide the classroom space and the 12 pastors who teach the biblical principles, a different one every week, and the 6 human resource professionals who teach the career skills, and all of the mentors are volunteers.
So, okay.
And with that free space, and so our expenses are minimal, so we're able to offer the course free of charge.
That's wonderful. Okay, so let's go back to the churches so you can tell people which ones these are, so
that's
they'll
Huntington
know,
Street Baptist.
What's in their neighborhood.
That was First Hispanic. It's now a different church, but because First Hispanic has merged with
another church.
First Baptist, right?
Okay.
That's First Baptist, which is right on State Street in New London.
All right.
And that's Pleasant Valley Community Prayer and Praise.
Okay.
So those have all been host churches.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's lovely that they enable you to be able to do this
That's
free.
right. Very
and
generous.
So who's eligible in your classes, and do they have to be Christians or any particular religion?
Well, we don't think we would be very Christian if only Christians could take the course. Any adult who is underemployed or unemployed who wants to look at perhaps a choice of career, who wants to get a job, and is able to participate actively and throughout the course, is eligible to attend.
Okay.
A typical course might might have a couple of people who are in recovery from addiction, in temporary housing in safe, sober houses. It might have one or two people who are from a shelter. It might have a couple of people who are recently returning citizens from incarceration.
Okay.
It'll have other men and women who are unemployed. It might have a high school graduate shortly to be in search of a job, and others. So we like this diversity in our classes because diversity is what most of them will experience in the workplace. And participants learn from each other.
That's right. Okay. And so what does the course cover? Where do you start?
Well, the course every Tuesday evening is a combination really of two different disciplines. The first is the biblical principles for the spiritual strengthening, and the second is the career skills. And we use two different books as authoritative guides for that. They may seem like different disciplines from an academic standpoint, but they're really quite connected when you get into the workplace in real life.
Right.
And so the guide for the biblical portion, of course, is the Holy Bible, God's Word, and the most popular book ever written. The guide for the career portion is the book, What Color is Your Parachute?, which is a practical manual for job hunters and career seekers.
That I used 30 years ago when I was looking for a job.
That's interesting because it's been updated every year for more than 40 years.
Wow.
And the authors actually have researched and documented how do people change careers and how do they get jobs. The book has sold over 10 million copies, so that's a pretty...
Well, and I just kept it by my bedside for about a year because I was young and trying to sort out what I wanted to do and what I could do.
And we also have our Work&Learn's own 85-page course workbook, which is in effect, the curriculum for the course.
Okay.
And so I'll discuss first what the biblical topics sequence is.
Okay.
After the introductory class, the next topic is who am I? And usually the pastor encourages the participant not to think of themselves, define themselves in terms of what they do or what somebody may have said about them in the past, which may have discouraged them in terms of their life direction, but instead see themselves as a child of God and made in God's image. So the next class, taught by the next pastor, is who is God and what relationship we might have with him. The next class after that is if we have that relationship with God as a God of love, what relationship might we have with his other children? And so then from there we go to God and work. What does the Bible say about work? Quite a bit, as it turns out. God asked us to tend the garden and rule the world, and Jesus said his food was to do the work that his Father gave him to do. So then from there we go to authority. Certain people have been placed in positions of authority, and who is the ultimate authority? Then attitude, that's very important. Then integrity, and we use the example of Joseph from the Bible as a terrific example of integrity with widespread consequences. And then communications, then conflict resolution. We can't always avoid or walk away from conflict. Sometimes it's there. We have to deal with it. And what does the Bible say? What are the steps to deal with conflict when you're in that situation? Then stewardship, the best use of time and money. And then excellence in all to bring it together. And then in the final class is actually a celebration of which is the graduation ceremony. Okay. In a church.
Right.
And so if you take all those topics together, particularly the things like relationships, attitude, integrity, those are the values.
Conflict resolution too.
That's right.
That's a big one.
Those are the values that employers say they're seeking when they hire somebody new.
Well, and also knowing how to navigate in an environment that people may or may not have been in, a workplace environment where they maybe haven't been in that kind of a place before or that kind of a business before. I think it's really helpful to help people understand that even if you're very successful, you're not always going to agree with the people you work for or the people that work for you. And I think Donald Trump is recently a prime example of that. So you need to learn how to navigate with a level of love and respect for the other people and for the other person's viewpoint, meanwhile adhering to your own viewpoints too. So it's a negotiation sometimes.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't learn that in their families. Families situations are particularly difficult to learn that in, I think. You mentor and you train. What do your mentors do?
Well, when the pastor is teaching, we're seated in small tables of 4 or 5 people with a mentor at each table.
Okay.
And from the course workbook, after the pastor has taught for 40 minutes, the mentor asks 4 or 5 questions from the workbook about the topic that week and how it pertains in each participant's life. And that's why men and women are separate at those tables, because sometimes very personal issues come out in that discussion. So sometimes the small group will stop and pray right then and there about that issue, and if it's a difficult one to be discussed perhaps after the class is over, there's always a pastor there that can serve as a backup to the mentor. So the mentors also are expected to, during the week, to contact the participants, encourage them in the steps they need to take, and make sure they continue with the training. To
help them stay on track. And you know, we all have busy lives, and if you have families, lots of times you get pulled in a lot of different directions. So it's nice to have someone prompting you or reminding you that Tuesday's coming up and you really need to have this done by then.
So mentoring is one of the challenging things we do. Some people say mentoring is the most challenging work of the church.
And it may be the most emotionally satisfying for the mentors
Exactly.
as well.
Mentors say they get as much out of it as the participants do. A number of mentors actually take the course to get on-the-job training to mentor in a future class.
Okay.
So that they're not asking participants to do something they haven't done themselves.
Well, that's great. That's great. What are the career soft skills that you cover?
We start off in the first class with asking each participant to stand up and tell us one of their life stories. We call this, "What are you proud of?" And what am I proud of? And not their entire life story, but just something that was a goal they wanted to accomplish. What were the obstacles they had to overcome to accomplish that? What steps did they take or actions to overcome those? What was the outcome? And were there any quantifiable results of what they accomplished? As you can imagine, most people are not eager to jump up in front of a group of people they haven't met with only once or twice before to stand on their feet, but a few people do, and as we encourage people and they see others do it, they realize, well, they could do that too, and then they all do quite well, and they all know exactly what it is they want to talk about when they do that.
Yes.
So everyone listens carefully, because after they've described this experience, each of us wants to try to reflect back to them what traits, and particularly what skills, and particularly what transferable skills may have come out in what they've just discussed, because sometimes people don't realize that the skills they've had in a certain type of experience might be very transferable into a different type of work that requires the same skills.
Right, in a different field. So what are your objectives?
I wanted to go on. I wanted to go on, Gracelyn. I'm sorry, with the other topics. So the next topic is a human resources professional teaches how to do resumes, cover letters, and thank you notes, and why.
Yes.
And so we help with the resumes. The next one after that is informational interviews, and this is an interview where, particularly if you're going into some new type of work, you want to talk to somebody that's doing that to verify the choice that you've made and verify what kind of skills are required for that. So you ask somebody if they'll, and we help with this, making these appointments, if they'll take 10 or 15 minutes to tell you about what they do in their work that is what you want to get into. And we prepare the participant to first of all, research the company before they go there for that, to ask, how did this individual get into that type of work? What do they like most about it? What do they like least about it? What tasks they have to perform? What skills do they need to perform those tasks? Write down those skills, because you want to be sure you mention those in a future job interview.
Right.
So that works out extreme, and be sure to write a thank you note for that as well.
Yes, yes. Okay, and the end objective of all of this is?
Well, again, I kind of stopped in the middle there.
All right.
The other career topics. The next one is is how to enter. The next one is actually a career choice, and participants go through about 10 different questions that are helpful in choosing the type of career you'd like to have. There are also online assessments that are very effective to do that as well. And we have a person come in who was a professional career coach for a major university, and he puts actually 3 overlapping circles on an easel chart we have set up ahead of time. And we ask the participants for their 3 favorite interests. Not only they've gone through the thought process of what were their
in those 3 areas then.
In those 3 areas, exactly.
Helping, spiritual advice.
That's a great illustration of it.
Okay.
And as you can see, we're looking for where do these overlap in terms of, are there careers or jobs that might combine 2 of your interests, different pairs of 3 different pairs of your interests, and conceivably, is there a job or career where all of your interests would come together?
Yes,
that would be rare, of course.
Right, it's rare, but worth pursuing.
So we have the participant list all the jobs and careers they can think of that they might be interested in, and then we open it up to the class for those suggestions. And for me, this is one of the most exciting classes we have, because people start to say, well, you could be a so-and-so, or you could do this, or you could do that.
Right.
So the coach writes these all down on the easel pad. We photograph that and give it back to the participant. They can use that to go to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is now online, which talks about hundreds of positions, and research different career possibilities. So that's quite interesting, I think, for every participant to see, kind of broaden a little bit what their goals might be.
Jobs out there,
and
right.
maybe find something that's available in this area, whereas the thing they had in mind might require a move.
Right. Okay. Is that the end of that list?
No, actually. So by the next class, we're about halfway through the course now, and by the next class, we want everybody to have a very specific job objective, because the hardest person to help is the person who says, I'll do anything.
Right.
The easiest person to help is the person that knows exactly what they want to do.
Yes.
And so from that information, we want to bring in someone to do a mock interview that's familiar with the field they want to go into. Maybe not the specific field they're going to play on, but or the position they're going to play, but at least the field they're going to play on. And so that's the next class. The following one from that is we go into public speaking. And the instructor for that is a woman who was the president of Toastmasters, and as you can imagine, she's a very good speaker.
Fairly dynamic.
That's right. And she does that for 2 different sessions. By the second section, she has every participant on their feet giving their elevator speech, saying what their career objective is, what skills they're bringing to that objective, and
why they want that
and
job.
What steps they're taking to get there.
Okay.
So that, in turn, is good preparation for the short testimonial each of the graduates will give at the graduation ceremony.
Okay, so the end objective is.
Well, the end objective.
Graduation is.
The end objectives in the course. Of course, throughout the course, we're trying to get people to get a better view of what God's plan is for the next step in their life. And the end objective, of course, is for everyone to have a job that matches their interests and their vocation and calling and
their abilities
and mission. And the second objective is for as many participants as possible to have a church connection, because the course is only for 3 months. We're not a church, but we think that with a church connection, they can pass on to others what they've learned. They can continue and develop the kinds of relationships we've developed in the short period of time in the course. And,
well,
and also connect their family. And
what happens a lot of times in many of these situations is that they're leaving behind a circle of friends that may or may not have been helpful to their future. Not that they're giving them up, but that I was married to an alcoholic, and most of his friends were alcoholics. And if you don't want to be an alcoholic, you need a new circle of friends.
Exactly.
So that's just one clear, obvious example. And there are many, you know, if you move new to an area or if you're coming out of prison, you don't have a lot of friends, maybe. And so churches are the easiest, or if you're new in a neighborhood, you know, a family member of mine moved 5 states away and from where she'd lived her entire life because she was getting older and needed to live with her children. She had no friends there.
Sure.
So a church is the easiest way to find a community of friends who are loving and supportive and open. And so the recipe that you're delivering is actually very conducive to having a good life, because you need friends and you need support and you need contacts, and you also need to be aware and able to give back as well as just receive. And it's easy to do all of that in a religious context.
These people have gotten to hear from 12 different pastors. And we have to encourage each pastor to be sure to tell them a little bit about their own church and where it's located and that sort of thing. So they have the potential to make some connections.
So make some connections.
That's right.
And choices about
That's right.
it too. It's not like you only have one choice here. You're delivering a whole banquet for people in terms of their life choices. So you have volunteers for Work and Learn. So what are opportunities for volunteers, and what do you need?
It's all volunteers. We've already mentioned the mentors and what they do in the small group discussion and assisting each participant. And as I say, some of the mentors come back and stay in touch as we go on. We run a training for mentors. We have a 32-page mentor training guideline book, and we hold a breakfast training session for mentors about 10 days before each course starts. So
even if they've been an ongoing mentor, they
do get some indication of what's expected from them. But the thing I really want to mention, Gracelyn, is that probably at least 25% of the work involved in Work and Learn goes on before the course starts. And we really need recruiters, call them friends, advocates, ambassadors for Work and Learn, who will recruit people who are unemployed to take the course.
Well, not just recruit, but let them know about it. I guess to me that's spreading the word.
Exactly.
Because if recruit is sort of, to me, is like reaching out and grabbing someone and say, you need to come to this. But I think in many of these situations, people who are unemployed may or may not have ever experienced that before and may not know that there is help and how to get it. And it might be free because so many people couldn't afford to pay for something. And so I would say helping to get the word out to friends and family who need this help. Just because you've heard about it on television doesn't mean everybody has that leisure or that contact or awareness. And so it's really great to have ambassadors to help people become aware of what you're offering, because it has great value.
A referral can take several different forms. It can be as simple as a phone call with a name and a phone number, and we take it from there. It could be giving the person, a profile form, which is a little bit like an application that shows their educational background and their work experience. And from that, we can prepare a draft resume. It's also very helpful to match the participant with a mentor to have that before the course begins. So that's a stronger referral.
Okay.
Is to get that profile form before the course begins. An even stronger one is to meet with the participant and tell them what the course covers. Perhaps show them a copy of this this broadcast, which will be on, I believe, will be on
well, it's
on YouTube.
It's on YouTube under SEC TV. Has a channel on YouTube of their own, so it'll be up there after it airs. And also, you have permission, and you'll have a DVD of the show, so you can post this to your website, and people can, you can go to YouTube and get the link and have that posted to your website, so people can just go there and push that and watch the video.
So this advocate or ambassador could show that perhaps to their outreach team of their church, to their board of deacons.
Yep, and you have permission, my permission as the producer, to make copies of this DVD once it airs, so that if you want to give them to the different pastors or, give them out as a part of your ambassador exercise, you're free to do so.
So other volunteer roles are, someone could focus on being a career coach as opposed to a mentor with all the assistance that's possible along that line. As any organization, we also have a need for volunteers with communications, computer, and IT skills to act as a webmaster, to
help your people learn how to use computers if they're not
to tutor in computer skills, which almost every class has people that like that. To manage our large database of contacts, to improve our branding and
your online communication.
Online communication through social media and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then there's one other, excuse me, one other type of major volunteer role that is possible and is one of our goals, and that is to put this entire course online.
Okay.
And for someone to come into have our instructors come into a studio somewhat like this and develop the entire course online, make it available to more than 100 million people worldwide who want to get a job.
Great.
And
we
a
only
reason
have
for
1
doing
minute.
this, reason for doing this is Maimonides, the Jewish philosopher, described 7 different levels of charity. He said helping someone get a job was in the highest level.
That's wonderful. Well, you're doing a great job of what you're offering, and it's broad, and it sounds like it's very systematic and will be very effective for those who apply themselves. I'm delighted that you returned to see this show again, and I hope you'll tune in again next week, next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and we will have another inspiring local nonprofit. Thank you very much. Good night.